Hey everyone, it's Shap.
Hi everyone, it's Paula. How are you?
We are back. We're here for episode 2 and
Woo!
to help you have a healthier life. First of all, thank you so much for checking out our first episode, which was on how to develop a positive mindset. Got some great feedback. Paula, do you kind of remember any of the things we talked about?
Oh my gosh, I remember a bunch. First of all, we talked about your birthday when we met the first time and the trip that you had, which was so super fun. And I want to know, how's your new car?
My new car is amazing.
Amazing, well deserved. So
Even
I
though
love.
there's a few things I'm going to mention about it that we could talk about.
Okay. All right. I'm sure it's going to play into today's conversation, but I remember we talked about all of that, and really, how we had you had a few hurdles and how you overcame them. We talked about, really identifying, what's a big problem, what's just a problem, what's maybe a small part of a problem. We kind of talked about how do you identify those, and how do you kind of treat each of them a little differently. So we talked about some of that, and then like what inspires and motivated us, and also we talked about what's our shtick. You kind of said,
Right.
what's your shtick?
Yes. Right.
And I had to have two. So my shtick was curiosity and connection.
Yes, and mine was wellness.
Hmm.
And we talked about, and I love this. This is just kind of a I'm gonna have everybody, I'm gonna have the link to our first episode below. So if you haven't seen it, you'll be able to see it. It's a really great episode. We had like 10 different tips on there. But
Hmm.
the ones that I really think about, besides what Paula said, is we talked about like, obviously controlling what you can. Like, developing a positive mindset is a lot of it is control what you can. Learning how to punt, which is what Paula
Hmm.
said. And that kind of just meant like just understand like if and if I got this wrong, just correct me. It's kind of like if something's not working, you can't keep living it. You got to punt it away
Yep.
and kind of get rid of it. And I loved when you see the first one, Paula talked about notions, and I love that she talked about like a stake in the ground,
Hmm.
and that just meant like a pebble, a rock, a boulder, and then the stake in the ground is just something you really, really think is important.
Hmm.
And for developing a positive mindset, you got to have some stakes in the ground that you'll go to. Like Paula was talking about being curious, and that's just kind of her thing. For me, kind of like that wellness piece is huge, and it's going to tie right in beautifully to our second episode, and that's the one we're doing today, and that's going to be just all about overcoming hurdles. Before we get started, everybody, please consider sharing this out. Share it out with a friend, somebody that you think that would like it. Please like, subscribe. Basically, to hit a button, hit like the subscribe button costs you nothing. It's free. All you got to do is hit a button. It's simple. We'd really appreciate it. That's how we can kind of keep doing this. And obviously, for us, we're doing it because we honestly just want to help. We want to
Yep.
make a
And
pod.
also, they can feel free to drop a comment, right?
Yep. Drop a
Uh-huh.
comment in, and either Paula or myself or both of us will kind of
Hmm.
comment back.
Hmm.
And again, we'd really appreciate that. So, with that said, we are on this topic of overcoming hurdles. And before Paula starts, I'll just simply say that first of all, no matter who you are, no matter how successful you think somebody's been or is, they have hurdles. Everybody's got hurdles. I don't care how much money or fame or power you have. Everybody's got stuff. Everybody's got hurdles. It's how we deal with them
Hmm.
that is really critical. Want
Hmm.
to add anything?
100%. I mean, I think, when a hurdle you come across a hurdle, it's there and there's nothing that you can do to change it. And so what, I really hope that our audience kind of takes away after this episode is really, you can't change the hurdle, but you can change how you react to it.
Hmm?
And you can change how you strategy around it. and what, you can change how your mindset is about it. So, instead of giving your energy to kind of the anguish over the hurdle, put that energy into, I can change this, but this is A, B, C, and D things that I can do to help get around that hurdle and keep moving. And I think that's the most important thing, right? Body's in motion, stay in motion. So see the hurdle, kind of identify it, analyze it. What do you have to do? Craft your plan, strategize it, and then take action is what
I
I would say.
It's funny. I love that because before Paul and I came on, I always take notes. Like I always jot down notes. And one of the things that I said here is I wrote down is can you control the hurdle? Like is it something that is beyond your control? And I'll give you a perfect example. It's just so funny. It's just something. This really wasn't a hurdle. It was more like annoyance, but
Hmm.
but it was something that happened, and people will understand this. So
Hmm.
I went to New Hope a couple weeks ago.
Hmm.
Take the Porsche to New Hope.
Love New Hope.
Yep.
Did you go to Stella's?
We did not go to Stella's,
Okay. All right.
but we've been there. So
Okay.
we pull into this parking lot.
Hmm.
Okay. There's a sign on the right side that kind of talks about it. It's just a regular sign.
Hmm.
We park the car and I pay like $9 for parking for 3 hours. So we come back. This is at 6 o'clock at night.
Hmm.
Come back at like 8:40. There's a ticket on my car.
Ooh,
And I'm like, the heck is this?
hardcore.
So bottom line, without going long, is I've refused. And they come back and say, yes, we see that you paid for parking, but you parked in the wrong parking lot.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, what?
Yeah, the
What
sign was right
what
there.
what parking lot? There's a parking
Yeah,
lot.
yeah.
And long story short, bottom line, it was like it was a hurdle that I couldn't control.
Hmm.
It was beyond my control. And I had two choices. I tried to fight it. So I
Hmm.
did try to fight, but then when that didn't work, I just had to pay the ticket. And
Hmm.
my point to that is very simple. There are going to be some hurdles in your life that are totally beyond your control.
Hmm.
And you can keep trying to fight them, and maybe at some point you'll get over the hurdle. But a lot of times, like in my instance, I could have fought this thing and fought it, and then all that would have happened is my ticket would have probably gone up.
Hmm.
So I just decided to just pay the ticket. So sometimes you have to realize that the hurdle is there, go around the hurdle, jump over the hurdle, but get rid of that hurdle.
Hmm.
Don't keep fighting it. And I think that is just really critical. It's kind of like all the stuff we talked about with the positive mindset.
Yeah, for
Like
sure.
sometimes stuff just happens. I remember you did a great job of when I was away on vacation, I was talking about like the flight being canceled. You put such a
Hmm.
positive spin on it. Oh my
Hmm.
God, you went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and you got your car, and that is something else. Like just realize that, put it in perspective,
Yeah,
you
for
know?
sure. Yeah, I think that we talked a little bit about earlier this year, you and I, when we were kind of talking off the cuff before, we've gone on air for this great series. And I shared, it was a tough year.
Mhm.
And I kind of started turning it around, and I lost my mother, and there's some things, and you can't, I wish I could change that, right? You can't. So you got to figure out, there's some things, hitting me hard. And so I took a step back, and I think, something that helps you deal with hurdles or obstacles or derailments is, finding something to be grateful about.
Oh yeah.
And so, I took a step back, and I was looking at different jobs and my career path and what I was going to do. And I, just a few things earlier this year. And I said, you know what, let me take a step back. I've been very blessed. I've had a very blessed career. I've had amazing mentors that have taken care of me. I still lean in on them now. I've worked in the past, three amazing companies, and this company would be company four. I have mentors in every company that I could lean in on and say, hey, could you write me a recommendation? Hey, could you do this? And so, taking a step back, saying I've been really grateful, and then, taking that a step further and say, how can I give back? And I think that's what both of us are doing as part of this, right? We want to give back.
Yep.
We want to, hopefully somebody walks away with something. So, you know, can something that we chat about or an experience that we had and how we kind of talk you through it, can that help? So I think that's all kind of, it's a circle, right? You think about an obstacle and how you're going to go around it and what you think. And so taking step back and you reflect and you're like, okay, you know what? Let me be grateful and let me be grateful. And then let me reach my hand out and let me help somebody else.
Yes.
And then you find some purpose. And you'll be surprised. You can't be frustrated and grateful in the same moment. It's impossible. Or you can't be angry or you can't,
True.
those two emotions can't exist at the same time in your head. So, you know, gratefulness is a very powerful mindset for sure.
Yeah. And I also think that, and this is something else. It's like when you think about overcoming hurdles, I always think about, and this just from the teaching and coaching piece,
Hmm.
is are you constantly dealing with the same hurdle? Like it's the same thing over and over and over again. And if it is, you got to think about why that is.
Hmm.
I'll give you like a perfect example. It's like somebody, let's say, who we'll bring it into the wellness field.
Hmm.
Somebody keeps talking about wanting to go to the gym, right?
Hmm.
They say, "Hey, Chap, Paul, I want to go to the gym." You're like, yeah, okay, that sounds great. I think that's a great idea. And then a week later, they're back. Oh my God, Chap, Paul, I really got to get to the gym. And a week later, they say the same thing. And I always think about like you are getting fixated on that same hurdle. So you have to decide is or are you gonna jump over this hurdle? Like, are you going to do this, or is you just going to be stuck on it? And so many times we kind of just get stuck on one thing, like the same thing over and over and over again. And guess what? When you do that, that small hurdle, it gets bigger and it becomes more daunting to kind of jump over or clear because you keep fixating on it. Like, oh man, you know what? Paul, I really need to go to the gym. Yeah, Paul, I know we talked about it and I'm just struggling. At some point, you got to decide I'm either going to jump over this hurdle
Hmm.
or I'm going to forget this hurdle and maybe I'm just not going to go to the gym and I'll do something else.
Yeah.
Because when you're so set on that one thing, and listen, we all do that. We all get fixated on something like that. It's either a problem in our life or something that we're dealing with that we want to kind of fix or overcome.
Hmm.
And a lot of that comes down to just like that mindset. Like, what am I going to do to get, I guess, rid of this?
Yep. But what happens is we tell ourselves stories. So I've been in retail forever.
It's
And
true.
I've had stores that are in like outdoor centers, these outdoor centers. And so, if it rains in the outdoor center, you say to yourself, oh, I'm never going to do, it's never busy when it rains. And so you start to tell yourself that story enough times. Oh, nobody's going to come in. It's raining. And then you begin, that becomes reality because the perception becomes reality. You make it reality. And I don't, maybe there are people coming in, but you're not welcoming them or you're not making them feel good or you don't have body language or, whatever it is. But we tell ourselves stories in life. And so, the real work comes when you can cut that story that's holding you back, and just make the new narrative and just get up and do it. Sometimes less talking and more action is better. That I'm gonna, that gets old, right? The I'm gonna. I don't ever do the I'm gonna. I mean, a good example is we used to have a beach house. And a lot of people will be like, oh, you should just stop down our house or our beach house or blah blah blah. And I would say to my husband, that's not a real invitation. Like a real invitation is, Craig, come to my house in Ocean City on September 5th, stay the weekend. I have a room for you. That's a real invitation, right? But the gonnas are, oh, we're gonna have you over. Oh, why don't you just step over? Like that doesn't count. So like you gotta
I love
stop
that.
stories and take action, right? And make a real invitation or a real plan and just do it. You don't even have to talk about it. Just get up, have your, you know what I find helpful? The night before I go to bed, the morning, I'm going to work out tomorrow morning. So when I go to bed tonight, I'm going to have my sneakers out, my sports bra, my little shorts. Sorry, too much information probably. My hat, and I'm going to be ready to go. I'm going to have my coffee waiting to go. I'm going to prepare. Because when you fail to plan to fail.
Oh yeah,
My favorite saying. So make the plan and just do it.
I
Not
love,
to not
I,
to quote Nike, but do it.
I love, love, Paul. I love the beach house story. That's what,
Right?
you know what that is. That's like the thing that says when you see somebody you haven't seen, right?
Yeah.
You
Or
say,
we should get together.
oh my God, we got to get together.
Yeah.
You know that there's
You're never
no,
gonna see them. Never gonna see them. Never gonna happen. See you next year.
and I think what you said is so true. Is there is a group of couples that we get together with, like, every month or
Mm,
two, and I am the one who plans it.
mm,
So I basically will put out a text to the other couples and say, hey, these are the dates we're thinking. Let me know who could make it. So I put it out and say, like, these are the dates.
mm-hmm,
If you can't make it, that's fine. Hopefully you can make the next one.
mm-hmm.
And of course I give people a chance to kind of give feedback, like,
Yeah.
whatever they want to say.
Mm-hmm,
But ultimately, I love what you said there about, just doing it and stop talking about it. Like, when it
mm-hmm.
comes to overcoming hurdles, I love that you said stop talking so much. Like, start doing.
Just do it.
But that is, the only thing I'd push back on is I'd say that's not as easy said as it is done.
Yeah, I know. Agreed. Mm-hmm.
I
I
mean, like,
yeah.
you have to have a certain, first we have to be confident,
Mm-hmm.
because it is, it's much easier just to talk about it as to do it.
Sure, of course.
I mean,
Anything is, yeah.
it takes no energy to
Yeah.
just talk about it. Like, oh my God, I'm going to go to the gym. Oh my God, I'm going to lose weight. Oh my God, I'm going to call
Mm,
this person. No, I'm going to get
yeah.
together with this person. That's
Yeah.
so easy to do because it
Mhm.
takes no effort. You don't need to do
Right.
anything.
Right.
It takes a lot more work to actually, doing it.
Yeah. No, agreed. I definitely recognize and I have an awareness that the actual doing isn't easy for people. I think, there's a lot of people that aren't comfortable getting out of their comfort zone,
Yep.
and I repeat all the time, nothing grows in your comfort zone. Last year I was sourcing a new role, and I was constantly out of my comfort zone. I was interviewing like crazy. I was going to conferences. I was networking. I was talking to people. I was, all those things, putting myself in those situations, because I was, sourcing a new role. And that happens all the time. Our kids are going to college and they're not in high school anymore, or the junior high kids are going into high school and they're not in junior high anymore. And, lots of uncomfortableness, but that's where the real growth is.
I agree.
That's where the secret sauce is, because that's where you get your strength when you conquer something that you've never done. You walk into a strange college on the first day, classes, right? And you're like, woo, what is happening? But, by the time you're done your first month, maybe you met your people or some of your people or whatever it's going to be. But, those things are hard, but, nothing grows by, going to the same place for coffee every day or getting your newspaper or whatever. You got to put yourself out there and shake it up, rattle that cage. And that's where the magic is.
I think so. Obviously, you're right about that. You do need to rattle the cage. And
Hmm.
I love that phrase. What would you say though to people that are struggling doing that? Because, like,
Yeah.
you obviously can do it because you've done it, right?
Hmm.
Like, that's just you. And I'll say this too. I think this is really critical. You have that it factor, so
Hmm.
you're able to do that. Like, for whatever reason, your DNA or what you've learned or your life experiences,
Hmm.
whatever they are, you're able to do that. I'm pretty similar. Most of the things I could just go do, and I don't worry about it. But a lot of people aren't like that. Or like, when you
Yeah.
say to somebody, you just go do it. What would you say to somebody who's struggling with that?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a great question. And I think you start small. You set a small goal, one goal. Maybe the goal is, maybe you don't go to the gym the first day, but maybe you just go out and take a walk,
Hmm?
or Start small, or you go to the gym and you go just for 30 minutes. I'm going to go to the gym just for 30 minutes. I'm going to, put my favorite radio station on and put my headset on, and 30 minutes is nothing. I always think, I could do anything for 30 minutes, right? I could do anything for an hour. When I have like a big day coming up, I'm like, I can do anything for 8 hours, like if you break it up. So I would say, break up those hurdles into small, manageable tasks, and you don't have to go skydiving tomorrow. You can start small and make it manageable, and then celebrate the wins. I would say
Ooh.
give yourself recognition. Celebrate. Hey, I went to the gym for a half hour. Now I'm going to go get a big old ice cream. No, I'm just kidding. But
Oh,
um,
you
yeah.
spoiled that. You should have just left it where it was.
That's what I know, exactly. But celebrate your wins, recognize it, because you're right. It doesn't come easily to people. I mean, I definitely go into, if I'm going into a conference, or I have, I'm doing some kind of panel thing, I'm sitting on a panel and I'm going to be interviewed. I'm nervous. I want to do, everybody wants to do a good job. You just take a deep breath and you say, I'm going to do the best that I can. It's only an hour and I can do anything for an hour, right? And start small, celebrate big.
I love that. I love that. Well, I've heard that before of the starting small, but to
Yeah.
celebrate big, I
Mm-hmm.
think is really critical when it comes to the topic that we're talking about. Because
Yep.
when you, and this is human nature, I know this because I've just been teaching and coaching for so long.
Mm-hmm.
It's very common for people when they, let's say, get over that hurdle to either diminish their accomplishment. Oh my God, well, that was not a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And to kind of belittle it, when really what you said, I think, is vital for being successful, is when you, and I'll say that all the time to athletes, people I train, people I teach,
Mm-hmm.
is celebrate your win.
Yep.
Don't necessarily brag about it, but celebrate it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, be proud of
Yep.
your accomplishments. Like, somebody will say to me, somebody will say, "Oh my God, Shap, you're really good at powerlifting, right?"
Mm-hmm.
And I don't say no, I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
I say, "Hey, I really appreciate that. Yeah, I've worked really hard and I really enjoy
Mm-hmm.
it." So I accept that compliment and I acknowledge that I've put a lot of time in. Like, you're great
Yep.
at doing all the retail stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If you're great at it and you've overcome so many different obstacles, I always say own your shit.
Yeah, and you should, sure.
Like,
Yeah.
own it. Like, if you do
Mm-hmm.
something well, don't, like, it's actually funny. Um, when we got on, I was like, "Oh my God, Paula, you look so nice," right? And
Yep.
what's so typical for people is to not, like, take it, and
Yeah.
like
Agreed.
not take it. Like, it's not, and
Mm-hmm.
that's another thing about overcoming hurdles is
Yeah.
when you do, somebody gives you a compliment or something works well, or you do something that was really challenging and you do it, and somebody says, "Man, oh my God, that's so great, Paula."
Mm-hmm.
The worst thing to do is to degrade your accomplishment. "Oh, well, no, it wasn't. It wasn't a big
Mm-hmm.
deal." No, own
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Own it. If somebody says that's a great job, like, you really need to, like, it's funny. Um, when I was getting my Porsche,
Mm-hmm.
I had to clean out my garage, and we cleaned out the garage, and I had to hang a bike rack
Mm-hmm.
because I wanted all my bikes up against on the wall.
Uh-huh.
And and here, everybody can hear this. I am not Mr. Fix It.
Yeah.
Right? It's right now. That is
All right.
not my,
Any handyman out there?
no, it's
Gotta
not that's not my
reach
thing.
out to Craig.
It's not my thing.
Yeah.
But I'm willing to try stuff. Like, I'm willing to do it. And when I was finally done with it, this is true.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's funny because it kind of goes against what I'm saying. Um, my wife had put something out on Facebook like, "Oh my God, look at my husband. I'm so, like, look what he's doing." And I swear, I said this, and I was joking. I wasn't serious, but I shouldn't have done it. So my comment was, "Oh my God, yeah, it looks great until the bike falls on my Porsche." And and obviously I was joking, but I really should. I should have just said, yeah, you know, it was, I'm not,
Yeah,
it's not something I normally do, but I'm proud of it,
right. Yeah,
you know,
yeah, for sure.
and,
Yep.
and just kind of own it.
Yeah, I do think, most times people are humble, and
Mhm.
they also there's a whole thing, it's called imposter syndrome.
Oh, yeah.
And right, and it's just like you're
Yep.
not good enough, you can't do things
Yep.
good enough, and I think that kind of parallels what you're saying about how we don't always like when we get a compliment or, instead of celebrating ourselves, we kind of diminish it. And I think there's a fine balance between, being humble, and celebrating, your success. And I think you have to do a little of both.
Mhm.
Um, I think there's enough in life that people have enough out there that maybe they're going to be places where they won't celebrate you. So when you are being celebrated, really relish in that because, it's not always that way. I mean, I've definitely been in situations where, I'm a different kind of leader. And some companies want a very cookie cutter leader. They want all their leaders to act and react the same and they want, round pegs and round holes. And I'm a different kind of leader. I definitely lead with passion and certainly integrity but I am a little more, outgoing and inquisitive, and
No, you
I
really?
know, huh? And I want to lead from a recognition, perspective. And there's been people in my career where they don't want to lead like that.
Yep.
They want to lead from a place of fear or, really just pointing out all of the opportunities. And man, that hurts my heart when I'm in situations like that. It's really hard for me to understand. There's a great book out there. I'm sure you've done it. It's called Strength Finders. So you
Mhm.
buy the book, and inside the book is a code, and you go online and you take this test, and the test tells you what your five strengths are. And the
Yeah.
premise of this book is to lean into your strengths. Human nature is to say, you know what, Craig, you're really, you're not a very fast talker, or, although you look very muscular, you could probably lift more weights or something. I don't know. But the human nature is to point out the opportunities.
Yep.
And the premise of this is to, it's make a fast horse run faster. So lean into people's strengths. So anywhere I've gone, I've bought the book for my teams. I've had them take it. I put it on a spreadsheet. Who shares what strengths? And they have them broken down into five quadrants. And who's an activator? Who leads from positivity? There's one of the competencies is around analytical.
Mhm.
So I had a leader who his number one strength was being analytical. So I knew if I asked him to do something and I didn't tie any kind of financial or analytical data to it, I'm never going to get his buy in
Yeah.
because he's motivated by analytics. So if
Yep.
I want his buy in, before I even go to him, I have to say, hey, Joe, we're going to do this floor move. We're going to, flip flop your whole floor around, but this is the ROI we're going to get from it. And then I got his buy in. But if I go to him and I say, hey, Joe, I just want to move your floor around, you think he's going to be, involved or inspired or engaged in that workload? No. But I knew my leaders. So I think, kind of getting back to it is just really, knowing what kind of leader you are and knowing, how you can think about things differently and we're talking about getting around hurdles, we're giving you certain tools to do it. So, I think we started talking about, giving yourself the pat on the back when you deserve it. And you should, because there's going to be instances when you maybe won't get it and you'll appreciate when you did get it. So I'd love to do a whole thing at some point. Maybe you and I take strength finders again
Oh,
and we
yeah.
compare our notes and
Yep.
see where our stuff aligns. I bet you we'd have a lot of
Oh,
similarities.
definitely. And
Um,
there's something said for, kind of going full circle when we talk about this
mhm.
is I really think people that need to realize that no matter what happens, the hurdles are going to tend at some point to go
Mhm.
away.
Yep.
Now, again, like everybody handles stressors, anxiety differently.
Mhm.
Some people are very good at getting the hurdles to go away like that.
Yep.
They're just very good at that.
Yep.
Honestly, that's one of my strong points is I really don't let many things get to me. And if they do
That's
get to me, I get rid of them very quickly.
it.
I just do. I don't, I think about, so maybe this will be something that will help people when there's a hurdle for me personally. This is the thing that I think about. These are the things I think about. First of all, can I control the hurdle? That was kind of like the ticket. Can I control the hurdle? Is the hurdle big or small? Is it a hurdle that I honestly really don't give a shit about? Or is it a hurdle that I really care about a lot? Is it something where I don't know what's causing the hurdle? Like, is it something I'm doing? Is it something somebody else is doing? Is it outside forces causing it? I think about those three things. And then my next thing is something that you talked about, which I think is really vital. Vital for so many parts of life is having some kind of plan of action.
Yep.
And I'm not saying that you can't talk about it first, because I do think you need to kind of script it in your head. But at some point, you need to kind of, well, you don't need to. We suggest that we suggest that you try to take those small steps that Paul has said and put them into some kind of action. And I loved your analogy of the gym, because it's something I say to clients, people I help all the time.
Yeah.
Start small. If you've never been to the gym and you want to go, and you tell me you're going to go 6 days a week, you are setting yourself up for complete failure.
Yep.
If you instead say, hey, you know what? I'd really like to come this one day for a short time to see what it's like. You already are setting yourself up for success, because it's a small little hurdle to clear. The hurdle's too big, it's going to be really hard. And then the last thing that I tend to do is I really think about through all those steps is when the situation gets resolved, whether it be in a good way or a negative way or whatever it is, I always reflect back on it and think about how everything played out. If I was doing this all over again, what would I do? Sometimes it's the same thing. Sometimes it's a little bit different. And honestly, sometimes it's a lot different.
Yep. I would also say take a partner.
Yeah.
I think, it's very healthy for you to have someone that's in a safe zone and bounce it off. I'm kind of in uncharted territory right now. I just got on a board of directors and I'm trying to make my impact. Thank you. It's a nonprofit and I'm trying to, I'm part of a few different communities and I'm trying to connect them and make sure that it's a value add. And I'm just, I'm kind of drinking out of a fire hose right now, like trying to understand. And so I have one of my mentors from she guided me for 20 years at Macy's and she's still guiding me now. God love her. And so I called her yesterday. I'm like, hey, can you talk to me for a minute? And so I just, I just needed someone to talk through it. And she really helped me get some clarity. And that's all I needed. And because it was, it was a hurdle. I'm like, okay, I want to collaborate, but how do I do it? And what does that look like? And, I talked to her for about 20 minutes. She's amazing and gave me clarity. And then, I still have to kind of, handle it on my own, but, take a partner, anybody, find somebody that that you can trust and that you have that safe space. And, maybe they don't even know the people or the situation. And that's sometimes even better. Because you can just run something by them and they can just be kind of a very optimistic, someone who weighs in.
And I love that. I think, again, like that's something where we really haven't talked about that, but I think that's a great point of when you find like-minded people, like people. Now, I have two different spins on that. I think you do need to find a partner or somebody who is going to support you. But I also think you need people that are going to be pushed back and be honest with you.
Yep.
There needs to be a balance.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think, especially in today's society, and let me be clear, I'm making a generalization. So anybody responding, it's not everything and it's not everybody.
Yeah.
The general thought is, I find that so often people just want to have like a yes person. Like, yeah, you're right. Yes, that's great. And There's value in that. We all love compliments,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
We love compliments, and I think that's awesome. But I also think that there needs to be some kind of honest dialogue that,
Mhm.
like if you're having trouble going over hurdles
Mhm.
and somebody it keeps giving you poor advice
Mhm.
and it's not working, you probably should find somebody else to listen to.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I think you definitely need the person who's going to give you tough love that you trust, because it's easier to kind of digest when you get it from someone that you trust. Our friend Jana, who we both know, she's never going to give me tough love. She's just
Right,
not. She
right,
loves me,
right.
and she's always going to be Team Paula,
Yep.
and whatever I'm doing is right. And I love her because I think you need both. I mean, I do have people that'll give me the tough love, but sometimes it's nice to have somebody who's just always Team Paula, and when
Oh,
I look back at her, she's got her Team Paula flag, and no one's going to ever take it from her,
well,
and
but I
it's
think,
very endearing.
again though, I want to make sure people understand this. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I think that you do need to have like a team Paul or a team Shap.
Hmm.
I definitely think you need that. You
Yeah.
got to have people in your corner.
Yeah.
But if that's all you have, let me try to phrase this the right way so
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
get yelled at.
Okay.
I do think you need people in your corner most of the time. Matter of fact, actually, I'll change that. I think you need
Mhm.
people in your corner at all times, as long as you have people that are going to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Like if somebody's in your corner,
Hmm.
I'll give you a perfect example, right?
Hmm.
So if you said to me, hey Craig, I'm trying to get get better glutes,
Hmm.
and I said to you, oh, don't worry about it, Paulie, you already look great, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, but that's not what you said to me though.
Right.
You said to me, I'm trying to get X, Y, and Z, right?
Right.
But then
Yeah.
I'm ignoring it.
Right.
I'm kind of giving you that thumbs up when, yes,
Hmm.
that's great. I mean, but now how I would handle that is this. Me personally, I
Hmm.
would say, hey, I think that's awesome. What would you like me to help you with?
Hmm.
I would, I wouldn't say don't do it.
Right.
That's silly. If you're
Right.
saying, hey, I need help with this, if
Hmm.
I just say to you, oh, don't worry about it, you look great or ready, excuse me. What's that do?
Right.
That negates what you're actually asking for.
Yep. Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. I think, there has to be a balance of both for
Yep.
sure. I think honestly, right now we're giving you tools for your toolbox. And people are going to pick what tools work best for them. And guess what? You don't have to use the same tools every hurdle. You can use different tools. You can take, I'll take one from column A, which is positive mindset, and one from column B, which is gratefulness. The next hurdle I come across, I need somebody with tough love to help me through this hurdle. And then from column B, I'm going to pick, I'm going to lean into that imposter syndrome and refresh, on what that is. And I am going to be good enough. So, I think at the end of the day, we're giving you guys tools for your toolbox. And we're giving you, today is around how do you get through hurdles? How do you get over hurdles? How do you get through? How do you deal with them? How do you accept them? So, we're giving you tools. So take all these tools and cherish them in your toolbox, and then pick which one you want, right? You're not going to use a screwdriver for every single thing in your house. Although, Craig, you already told me you're not a handyman, so I shouldn't use that scenario.
I'm not.
Um,
I'm
but
not.
you're not going to use the same wrench. You're not going to use the same screwdriver. So, you're going to use whatever tool makes the most sense. So you have to use the tool that's right for you. And you know what? Sometimes you may want to just kind of relish a little bit in the hurdle that, this hurdle really stinks. That's okay too. You could take a time out and say, I'm going to just, sit in my room tonight and I'm going to be bummed about this hurdle. No one's saying you can't do that. What we're suggesting is don't let it overtake your life, because nothing is the next day, get up in the morning and then go do what you're going to do. Life doesn't stop because of a hurdle. So, if you want to kind of moan about it or marinate on it in a negative way. And then the next day, get up and cook that steak. It's been marinated, put it on the grill, cook it and go. That's what I think we're kind of saying, right?
I love, Paul, I love that closing. I love that because
Toolbox.
it's something we didn't talk about, and it'll be a great way to close this episode.
Mm-hmm.
As we close, everybody, just a reminder, there's going to be a link to our first episode.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see that. Please go on, check it out.
Listen.
Give
Yep.
it a like, give it a
Follow.
comment.
Mhm.
One of us will get back to you. We'll give you some
Mhm.
feedback. Maybe just say, hey, thank you for getting involved.
Give it a heart.
Yep, give it a little love. But I want to kind of finish with what Paul has said here because I really think that's a great ending, and I didn't think about it. And I will say quickly why I didn't think about it. I am the kind of person, I will admit this, that I'm not a marinator. I'm really not. I'm really more the kind of person to just move on.
Yeah.
Pretty quickly. Of course, not on everything. I mean, nobody's, we all have our stuff. But generally speaking, I really don't I don't really stay stressed over things very, very long. I try to move on. But I love that you said this because I think it's really critical for people.
Sure.
There is nothing wrong with being upset with something for a little while.
Sure.
Nothing. That's actually human.
If you want to. Yeah.
Right, that's a human emotion, and
Totally.
everybody has that. Everybody. Never met a person who doesn't get upset sometimes. The key is that you don't want to let that kind of just overcome everything.
Mm-hmm.
And Paula's advice about waking up the next day and moving on and cooking that steak, I think is a great way to finish, because ultimately what we're trying to do is, Paul and I are not telling you what to do. This is not supposed to be a lecture. It's supposed to be a series of steps or ideas or things that we've done that we think can help you to overcome hurdles.
Yep.
They're not all going to work. Some will work for some of you. Some will work for others. And you have to kind of go through, like she said, with that toolbox. If the screwdriver doesn't work, try a hammer. If the hammer doesn't work, try a wrench. Figure that out. Anything closing, Paula?
I mean, I think this is a great topic, and I think, we gave you a lot of tools for your toolbox. There's a lot of different ways, and hopefully at the end of the day, one of these paths resonated with you, and it'll lead you to where you need to be with that hurdle for you. What works for you? And so, we shared what we do, or, some thoughts, but we want what works for you. So we'd love for you to follow back up and say, hey, oh my God, you know what? This came up, and I kind of sat with it at the one night, and I got up the next day, and everything kind of looked better in the daylight, and I did this, and this, and I'm good. And that, what, if we touched one person out there, one person shared that would make it worthwhile for us. So that's what I would say.
Everybody, first of all, thank you again for checking out what we're doing. Please give it a like. Please give it a comment. Please consider subscribing. And also, if there's a topic that you would like Paul and I to talk about, that maybe is something you'd like to hear our thoughts, or maybe it's something you're struggling with, and it can be anything. Everything's on board. Please drop a comment in. One of us will both of us will check it out, and then we'll be able to do that. And as we say on our first one, you're awesome.
Woo! All right.